Welcome. Hi, I'm Michael Voss, one of the Deans of Instruction here at Mesa Community College. And today I'll be sharing some information about making notes and documentation in Dropout Detective. I would be remiss to not also share that this presentation, a lot of it has been developed in collaboration with the Center for Teaching and Learning, in particularly Jennifer Strickland had a large contribution in this presentation, and for that I'm very, very grateful. Well, let's get started, shall we? Okay, so let's start by meeting Thor's Student Success and Retention Team. Of course, our faculty are the frontline stars in supporting our students. They craft the learning experience. They are present for all of the learning, and they would really know best as far as how a student could be best guided towards success, and they would be the most knowledgeable about any potential retention efforts that a student may need. In addition to faculty that are assigned to all the courses, we also have the ability to assign individuals as allies to individual students. So the primary role of an ally is to monitor the students for which they've been assigned a dashboard, and they receive any alerts that are tied to a particular student retention request. And then we also have the ability to use tags on notes, and we have people assigned as recipients to receive those tags. So sometimes faculty want a very specific resource for a student to help them be successful. So the tag owners then reach out to the students anytime they get a specific request. Here on the side, you'll see some students may not have any allies. This particular student only has their instructors. There's no ally assigned. This student over here has lots of allies assigned, and so students may have an ally for various reasons. They might be part of a grant funding project. They might be receiving specific scholarship funds. We could have a dashboard based on their declared major or based on a field of interest. So, and for those we may have assigned an ally to follow up with that cohort of students. Okay. Now, I did say that the faculty are really the rock stars, and they are. Their role in Dropout Detective is the most crucial, right? They, all the grading data, any missed assignments or zeros, and or the engagement with students and how often they log in. The faculty is really setting the pace and the expectations for all of that. So they've designed the learning activities and learning environment, and so can't say enough about how much we value faculty and their participation to use the Dropout Detective retention tool. So, the biggest thing that we want our faculty to do is monitor their student dashboards, in each of their classes, reach out to students who are in the red, and then create an appropriate note, tag, or alert to either document the outreach and support that we're providing students, and or to request or refer students for specific resources and supports. Now, the role of the ally is really based on a specific group of students with specific retention goals and objectives. So an ally may be identified based on the student's declared major. They could be a veteran. We might disaggregate students by race or ethnicity and want to do specific follow-up for people that historically have been at higher risk. Scholarships, any number of reasons. We could create dashboards, load a group of students in there, and then assign an ally. The primary thing that an ally needs to do, though, is respond to alerts for students on the assigned dashboards. So we would hope that an ally would also regularly monitor their students, look for students that are in the red, and again use notes to document their outreach and support efforts. And an ally may also utilize a tag to refer the student for a specific follow-up or support. Okay. Now, I also mentioned that there are people assigned to tagged resources. And when we use a tag in Dropout Detective, it's basically flagging a note for specific retention support. And anytime we do a tag or do an alert, it does send whatever that note was via email to either the ally if it's an alert, or to the tag owner if it was a tagged request. We do ask that any tag owner respond within a short period of time, and that they use notes to document their outreach and respond to the tag sender. Alright, so if you're not well acquainted with Dropout Detective, there's a couple of different views. There's the standard faculty view. Each faculty is able to see a risk assessment of the students in just their course that they're teaching. If a faculty has multiple courses, they need to go into Dropout Detective for each course to see the risk algorithm that's run for the student in that course. So here we have a student who is, Thor is in Art History 102 from the faculty perspective, but from an ally perspective, or someone who has viewing rights to the dashboard, administrative rights, they see that the student is not only in Art History 102, but they're in drafting, English, math, and psychology as well. So if you are a Dropout Detective user with admin rights, either as an ally or a viewer, you will see the students holistically. So the default for faculty is to see the faculty view, but faculty could also be allies. I think it's a great idea if faculty who have a certain discipline expertise or might be responsible for certain programs of study, it would be a best practice to also identify some faculty to have admin access to see the students by declared major, for example, or programmatic area. So making notes, we're going to get into a lot of detail here, but I want to make it really simple. So here we are looking at a notes page, and entering text in this notes field is the basic thing that would need to occur. If you enter text in this field and hit save, you're basically making a note. And the most common thing that we would ask faculty to do is to make notes so that they can document the efforts that they've made to provide support, or maybe an action or a recommendation. It's basically just saves information down here for future reference. Any note made by anybody can be seen by anyone else who is also looking at the students. So those are not held within a course. They are available for other Dropout Detective users to see, who might see students in different classes, for example. Then if you make a note, select a tag, and hit save, that note gets tagged and sent via email to whoever the tag recipient is. And again, we'll get into more detail here, but we might identify someone as needing English retention support, or maybe English tutoring or math tutoring specifically. In those situations, we would describe the situation and the requested support, choose the tag, hit save, and it'll automatically hit the tag recipient for additional follow-up. And finally, you can make a note and check this box to activate alert. That alert then gets sent to anyone who's listed under contacts as an ally. And that would be an all call for urgent and immediate support. It's not as specific as using a tag. You're kind of asking to rally everyone around the situation to see what support we can do for whatever the situation is. Okay, So here we are just looking at notes, real basic notes. And here's some examples of some notes that have been created, and the main thing is, you're documenting your effort to communicate with students and support students. Your notes are just internal to faculty and staff with viewing rights to Dropout Detective. They're not seen by the student. These are for internal retention support use only. So if you're going to make a note, make it good, right? And describe what action you did to support the student or communicate with the student. If you had a recommendation that you made to the student, share that. Sometimes I see folks make a short note, and they might even copy and paste the communication that they sent to the student in Dropout Detective. Those are all fine practices. It's better to have some information in there so others can kind of see the context of what was going on as perhaps more support is needed down the road. And these don't go away either. They stay appended to the student record in Canvas. So anytime the student is actively enrolled, you'll see the complete history of comments over all time. I don't think they get purged. Now, for in between semesters, you won't see students aren't actively in Canvas, and so you wouldn't have access to those notes at that time. All right, so tag notes, very, very similar. Again, you're making a note, and you're tagging it to someone here who might need might be able to provide additional support. So you might have a student struggling, like I said earlier, with writing, and perhaps they could use an English tutor. So what is nice about what we do here for the most part is when you select a tag, oftentimes we're including the email of where that tag is going, so you have a sense of who it's going to and who should be responding. I'm also really happy to share that both counseling and the CARES team have agreed to have tag opportunities in here so that concern can go directly to either the counseling department or the CARES team. So that's fantastic as well. All right, alerts. Alerts, need to be utilized when there's something immediately actionable that needs to occur to retain the student. So it's an all call, like I said. It lets all allies know that this person is at risk of either being withdrawn or dropping, and we're trying to bring added resources to retain the student. We need a really detailed note on what's going on, and you'll see these conventions. So you can always see if that note had an alert, it's indicated, or in this case, this little blue one is a tag that was on there. And it goes to everyone who's an ally related to the student, and you can see that on the contacts page. All right, so here's some critical thinking, because I know that this comes up. So a student had not been completing assignments for several weeks, and they participate minimally, and then the students stopped attending altogether, and they haven't communicated at all for the last 2 weeks. So they've literally missed 4 class sessions. You've been reaching out as a faculty member. You've been regularly documenting your retention efforts in Dropout Detective. You made some notes about some proactive outreach when they stopped attending. You made a note that you sent them an email encouraging the student to meet with you during office hours to get caught up. And after all of that, you have made the decision that you're now going to withdraw the student. And the question is, should you document this with a note, using a tag, or an alert? And so let's just think about it critically. Now, if you are doing this documentation and you have not yet withdrawn the student, perhaps you could make one final note and set an alert to ask allies to do one last outreach within a certain time frame. And if you don't hear back from the student, then you could drop the student. If you feel like you've already done all of that and you're just, you're making this note that you have withdrawn the student, then that would just be a note and not an alert. Because, if you're just letting people know that you've done something and you've already withdrawn the student, alerting people that retention efforts are needed really doesn't empower the ally to do much. So just be thoughtful. Like when you're using a tag, you want a very specific resource to help the student. When you're using an alert, make sure it's actionable, that the ally can actually do something to retain the student. If you're just documenting something that is no longer actionable, like you have withdrawn the student, please just make that a note at that point. Now, you may have set an alert, a few days earlier, saying that, hey, if I don't hear from the student in the next 2 days, they will be withdrawn. So just think about those to make sure that you're using the appropriate tool for what you're doing. If it's just documentation, use a note. If it's documentation with hoping others take action, then tags and alerts are a better route. All right, so here we are talking about alert, 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 all call, let's help this student. So here we are, we see that this faculty member has made some outreach details. It looks like the student had some technology issues. They lost their charger and couldn't power up their computer, and it's an online class. And so there's some communication, and the instructor expressed that there would be some flexibility. And then there's another note here about perhaps some assignments are kind of falling behind, but the student may have had some accommodations, but the instructor is getting concerned that the student is falling behind, and ultimately the instructor thought about it and said, no, I actually need to set an alert. I want the allies to reach out and check in. In this particular case, we don't see a quick response from an ally, but it looks like there's some more communication, and someone indeed did reach out to the student and responded to that alert. Okay, so now when you're in the Notes tab, again, this is just sort of breaking down what you're seeing. So up high, if you're a person who might be acknowledging an alert, you see that Peggy sent an alert at that time, and if you check this button and respond with a note and hit save, it'll put this alert acknowledgement indicator that has been closed out. Oops. Here is that alert that was sent earlier by hitting activate alert, typing in some information, hitting save, and then it puts that notification that there's an open alert that needs to be responded to. Here's what an alert acknowledgement looks like. They show up in green. This one is in response to this alert right here. So someone set an alert on the 30th, and then it looks like Debbie responded to that alert here. So this indicates the response that was given after the alert happened. It also adds this gray piece down here that acknowledged that this alert was resolved. So that's the one that got acknowledged. This little blue thing here was a tag, specifically a tag to give this student specific Canvas support, and that was assigned to Patrick Fisher on that day. So that's just kind of how that notes page works. I know that there's a lot of detail here, but we really want to make sure that people feel comfortable using the Notes tab. It's incredibly important for faculty to develop in their practice, hopefully every week, to go into Dropout Detector for their courses, take a look at who's in the red, see if anyone would benefit from outreach and retention support efforts, It's always helpful to shoot them an email via Canvas saying, hey, you're here for them. You'd love to see them during office hours. Offer whatever support you can, and then just make a quick note to document that effort. Think about whether or not they would benefit from a tagged resource that might be available, and then as a last-ditch effort, activate an alert as an all call to rally the allies, right? Bring them in and see what else we can do to support students. Well, that's about it. I don't want to make more into it than that. So thank you for your time today, and thank you for all that you do to support our students.